It's Tuesday, December 13th of 2022, and this is the Stoughton City Council, and the first item of business would be the roll call. Candy.
Okay, Hirsch.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Majewski.
Here.
Reeves.
Here.
Schumacher.
Here.
Tukalski.
Here.
Carabello.
Here.
Raff.
Here.
Hiley.
Here.
Okay, we have 9 alders present. We have Bagaki, Hunt, and Venegas absent and excused this evening.
Venegas is here.
Oh, you are here. Okay.
I am here. Next one I won't
Venegas
be
is here.
Thank you.
We have 10 alders present.
All right, thank you very much. Minutes and reports are in the packet. Public comment period, nobody signed up to speak tonight. Communications and presentations, are there any communications from alders?
Yes.
All right, hearing none. At this point, we're anticipating that this will be the only meeting in December, but we'll let you know if something comes up that we need to take immediate action on. But otherwise, hopefully you'll have the next normal meeting night and 2 weeks off. Having said that, we do have one presentation tonight, and the timing of this is always good. Director Aber is here today to talk about snow plowing. So whenever you're ready, Brett, you should be able to share your screen and walk us through your program.
All right, perfect. All right, can you all see the screen?
We can, loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Well, yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk through our snow operations, snow and ice operations. What we do is a very forward-facing operation. Obviously, we touch every single road in the street or in the city. It affects everybody within the city and those traveling through the city. So I just want to give an overview of what we do. Also answer any questions that you may have about our operation as we go through the presentation. We have over 120 lane miles of roadway to clear. That encompasses 8 residential plow routes. We have a downtown route, 2 cul-de-sac routes, over 56 different walking paths, walking areas. We also have the new roundabouts that you're all aware of. That there's actually quite a bit of walking paths through the roundabouts that we have to clear, and 10 parking lots that we are responsible for. We have our routes broken down into 2 different areas. So we have our main roads, and we have our secondaries. So our main roads are primarily our collector level roads. During the storm, we do everything we can with the staff that we have to keep those roads clear, open for emergency services, hopefully get people home from work or to work, to school, home from school. We typically have a skeleton crew doing that type of work, 2 to 4 people. We plow just to keep the mains open, lightly salt, main roads, roads around the schools, the hospital, churches or places of gathering on Sundays. Then we have our residential routes. We have 8 different routes. During that is typically after the snow has stopped falling. That's when we go into our secondaries. So we have 8 different routes, plow curb to curb, salt as needed. We salt basically the intersections, all main roads, inclines, and the middle of the road, or the mid block, I should say, for some of those more secondary streets. Typically, it takes us about 7-8 hours to plow the entire city after the succession of the snowfall. Of course, that varies wildly based on the amounts of snow, the timing of the snow, and various other conditions such as ice. Ice poses a major issue for us. Just like anybody else, we have a tough time being mobile on ice. So we tried to do everything we can to get ahead of situations like that, but it's definitely difficult when we have icing conditions. The cul-de-sac routes, I just wanted to highlight this, just like you did last year. We have, right now we have 44 cul-de-sacs. So we deploy 2 loaders out in the cul-de-sacs, which are more efficient use of our staff and equipment. So each cul-de-sac, if we had a large truck, a main plow truck in the cul-de-sac, would take anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. So by doing this, we save almost 11 staff hours of time that we can keep these plow trucks going straight forward and doing other residential roadways. So this program's actually paid a lot of dividends for us from a time standpoint. What a lot of people we don't know is that after the storm, after we clean up all the city streets, after everything's cleared, that night after, our staff has to come back in and do the downtown area. So a lot of people don't see that because we come in at midnight, usually are done by 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and basically the snow downtown just somehow disappears. So that's very taxing on our staff when we have, a storm after storm. So it's our guys go through a lot when we have snowstorms. It's usually a 2 or 3 day event to get everything cleared and get ready for the next event. So we do the downtown areas because there's limited terrace space for snow storage. Again, limited parking down there, and we want to get things open for business. The parks, they take care of all city buildings, all city-owned sidewalks, and paved trails throughout the entire city. Parking lots, it's a critical operation because there is a huge liability if we don't clear the snow within a reasonable amount of time. In the downtown area, by ordinance, we have 24 hours to clear the snow. We typically get on it that next morning or during the storm to keep things open for city facilities. The rest of the city, there's 48 hours is in the ordinance. That's usually for residents. We get after it much quicker than that, but technically we have 48 hours to get everything cleared. Salting, we do a lot of training on the use of salt because our mindset is that every chloride that we put down ends up in our waterways, potentially our drinking water. So we are very cautious on our use of salt. All of our staff have been through the SaltWise training. So typically we put down 300 to 350 pounds of salt per lane mile. Excuse me, each truck is calibrated, so we know exactly how much salt that we're using and what comes out of the back of the truck. Each truck is equipped with a pre-wet system, so that actually wets the salt, helps to reduce scatter, actually activates the salt a little bit quicker. So we use about 40 to 50 gallons per ton of salt brine. Our snow ordinance, basically this is anytime we have 3 inches or more of snow in the forecast, we call a snow emergency. Sometimes if we have icing conditions, we can also call a snow emergency. But basically from midnight to 8 a.m. is when that snow emergency goes into effect for 3 consecutive nights. So basically that second night and third night is so we can come back in and clear the opposite road where people parked. So it's even odd based on that midnight. So if I call a snow emergency on the 12th, it's actually that midnight would be the 13th, so it's an odd number. So that's one thing we try to get out there to educate folks on. It's actually the midnight that the date takes into effect. Snow emergencies, if I do all that, we send out email notification to anybody that signs up for the program. It's on the website that you can sign up for an email alert. It's on the city website. The different TV stations that we get our media out to, regional radio stations, the Facebook page, we send a blast out using that, and then our own website. Challenges, well, the main challenge is just weather. A lot of things are unpredictable when it comes to weather. The forecasts aren't 100%. So we're dealing with forecasts that change sometimes with, 1 degree in temperature can make a big difference on what precipitation that we have. If the weather system goes north or south, it could make a big difference on how we need to react. Another challenge is parked cars. Some streets are very narrow. We have a tough time getting through, especially if we have multiple snowfalls, one after another. Then the snowpack along the roadway can start to creep out, if you will, and restrict the lane width. So the biggest thing, if you have an opportunity to get your cars off the road during a snowfall or a plowing event, we encourage folks to do that to allow us to get in and clear the street, and so that they can then park, on the street after that. Residents or contractors putting snow in the street after we go through. We spend a lot of time and effort to clear the road, then to come back and have contractors or residents, for that matter, putting snow back in the road really defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do. It's really not helpful. It's actually against the city ordinance to do so. And we do talk with the PD about that, and they've been very helpful to curb that type of behavior. Garbage cans and trailers in the roadway. So we ask that you shovel space in your terrace, or if you have a wide enough apron for your driveway, to put your garbage and recycling can in that space. We also just sent an email to John's Disposal to make sure that they're helping us out as well and not grabbing those cans and putting them in the street, which was happening on Friday. So it's a learning curve for them too, and we try to work with all of our partners to make sure that we're getting the streets cleared. Mailboxes. So our mailbox policy is that we will not reimburse for mailboxes if they're in disrepair, if the post is rotten, or if it's not installed.
Oh, we froze up, Brett. And we'll just give them a second and they'll come back. Any questions so far?
Oh.
There he is.
All right.
I'm sorry about that. Not sure what happened here.
Yeah, you froze up, so you'll have to share your screen again when you're ready.
Okay.
Are there any questions
Yes.
so far while he's rebooting here?
Did you guys hear about mailboxes, or where did I cut off at?
Mailboxes.
About installation.
Okay, so if your mailbox is not installed for USPS specifications, we will not replace it. We do check up on those and follow up on any complaints with mailboxes, and then like I said, I'm not sure if you heard, but we do have all the specifications on our website in case folks want to check that out. Another challenge is keeping up with future growth. Steady strategic growth is a good thing. We just got to make sure that we're keeping up with our staffing levels and also with our equipment. In our 5-year plans, we do have a plan for equipment, but we really need to keep up with our staffing levels. That is one of the challenges is staffing. Right now, we're in our parks area. We're down 2 seasonals, which makes it awfully tough for us to keep up with snow events. We have contract with Moyers just to pick up the slack there, but it's a struggle to keep fully staffed with especially our seasonal type help. One thing to point out too is that it's all hands on deck. I mean, on Friday I was in a plow, again, happy to do so, but we have virtually no alternates. So if we have somebody that's sick or somebody that's out of town, we typically try not to do a whole lot of vacations in the winter months just because we don't have anybody to fill in those gaps. But you know, it's one of those things that we would like to get to a point where we have at least 2 or 3 alternates to not only take care of the mains during the snow plow so that our main route drivers can go get some sleep, but also fill in the gaps when we do have people that are sick or not able to come to work.
What are the requirements if somebody out there was interested in plowing?
Yeah, you have to have a CDL, at least a Class B. We won't just throw anybody in a truck. We have to have some training. Also, we need some experience driving a CDL style truck. You can't just hop in a truck and expect to plow snow with a large truck and a wing. It takes a lot of practice, seat time, if you will. So if we did have somebody that was new, we would probably have them ride along with another operator for a couple events before we were able to deploy them. Sleep deprivation, that comes with the territory. Our guys are really pretty good at going home after a snow event and getting some sleep, because knowing that we have to come in the downtown area, you gotta sleep when you can. So we, our guys, they put in a lot of time and effort, and it's much appreciated what they go through during a winter season. The biggest thing is to be patient. Our plows can't be everywhere at one time. Somebody's going to be first on the route. Somebody's going to be last. Slow down, give our plow drivers some space. If you can't see us essentially in the mirror, we can't see you type of thing. We can't stop very quickly. Just like in the winter months, you can't either. So please give us some space. Snow has to be plowed to the curb. We get, seems like, calls every year about us plowing snow into the driveway. It's inevitable. Yeah. One thing to think about is that after we get done plowing, we have to go home to our own driveway and shovel that out. And those plows plow snow into our driveway as well. So we're not exempt from that.
So if one of us were to receive a phone call or an email with either a compliment or more than likely a complaint, how would you like us to handle that?
Yeah, believe it or not, we do get quite a few compliments. Of course, there's people that have suggestions for us. So I'd encourage you to forward those emails to me, and I'll reply to them. I'd be happy to copy you on it as well. But there's always things that we can do better. We believe in continuous improvement. We talk about, after every event, we talk about how we can do things better, what went well, what didn't go so well. So there's definitely, if there's some constructive criticism, we're definitely all ears and take everything into account. And we'll reply to anybody that has an issue or wants to talk through something. We're happy to talk through it.
All right. Looks like Alderperson Reeves has a question.
Sure.
I did, and this may be for, a public works discussion or, safety, but I know that this has been an ongoing issue with people not clearing the, what is it called, the apron, that allows people to access the side, from the sidewalk to the street. And I'm especially, concerned about it over here. I'm sure there's other neighborhoods with senior citizens, but in my neighborhood, we have Scollin and Vendaval, and I saw a gentleman with a walker in a residential neighborhood trying to get it up and over, a big hunk of snow. So I don't know if that's, I know that, the department doesn't have time to go around and ticket people. It seems like an education would be a good idea, but I'm just not quite sure how to get
Yeah.
that message across. So any ideas would be
Yep.
great.
Yep, great point. We do have a post for Facebook that we put out there, and we'll send that out tomorrow. But basically, it talks about how those that live at the corner are responsible for those curb ramps or sidewalk ramps. So we have a kind of a nice flyer, if you will, that talks about those that can't step over a snowbank, that really need to use that approach or that apron, that needs to be cleared. And also it cites the ordinance.
Thank you.
I got one for him too, Mayor.
Alderperson Schumacher has a question.
Brett, the salt that you're using on the roads, is that just a straight sodium chloride, or is that a blended product that you have for the roads?
It's a straight chloride, sodium chloride. So we don't do any blending or mixing. There's a lot of different what they call hot mixes out there. Those are very corrosive to not only our equipment but your cars, and also not good for our roadways. Some of the concrete areas are porous, so chlorides do get in there and can wreak havoc on the concrete areas like the new roundabouts. So we're very careful on the different products that we use. And like I said, we train on and not using more salt than we need. That minds.
Oh. And we lost him.
All right, that answered it though.
Well, looks like you froze up again, Brett. I don't know if you can hear us. We'll see if he logs in. Were there any more questions? All right. Dave, are you able to unshare his screen?
Sure.
We'll keep going. All right, thank you. If you have any questions, just write them down, and if Brett logs back in, we'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I think that was it for his presentation. He was on his last slide. So that takes us to the consent agenda, and it looks like there's a few items in there. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Reeves, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jensen. Would anybody like anything acted on separately from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. It looks like you're back on, Brett. Were there any questions for Director Hebert? Alderperson Caravella had one for you, Brett.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say that you guys the whole crew did a really good job on Friday. I watched the handful of guys descend on the parking lot at Washington and Division Street and navigating around the cars that were parked in the lot. And, with the space that they could use, it was super fast and efficient, and you guys did a great job.
I appreciate that. That was a tough storm, that when it starts snowing at 7:30 in the morning with folks commuting, and we got about an inch per hour. It was a tough one for everybody, but yeah, really proud of our guys for sticking through it, and everything was done by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Director Hebert?
Just want to say thanks for you and your crew and all that you do. I mean, it is nice to see that you have a great plan and that it's implemented very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on. We're going to skip around a little bit. There's a few people that we're trying to get out of here tonight, so we're going to go down to item number,
Jim,
oh,
need to vote on
on the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you, and thanks, Greg. We're going to go to item number 17, which is R 220 of 2022. And this one is coming out of the Finance Committee. And
All right.
didn't mean to throw you a curve
Nope,
there,
no worries.
Brett. Let me know when you're ready. I'll pull it up here and
Got
we'll
it.
get through it. All right.
All right, Resolution 220 of 2022 is a resolution authorizing and directing proper city officials to approve the Police Department 23-24 union contract and related budget amendment. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Reeves. Alderperson Schumacher.
I'm going to give this one to AJ and Dave because they did a massive amount of work.
Perfect. So you had already approved at the last meeting the 9% across the board for our sworn officers, and we were able to negotiate the contract at 9%. The only other things that we did that were a little bit different, the other negotiations that fell in were a 2-year contract versus a 3 that the union had suggested. We wanted a 2-year. And what we did is put a clause in there for year 2 at 1.5% as a placeholder. So if there is a greater increase for the city, they would get that Me Too clause, which means they would be included in that higher increase percent should that occur. The other thing that we added was Section 2 and Section 9. These are to go into effect for 2024, and it's moving our officer in charge, OIC, and our FTO, which is our field training officer, from a non-competitive rate of 50 and 55 cents respectively to $1 for both. So we're asking for that, and again, that's only 2024. And the other major things that financially would affect this would be, again, in 2024, we're going to take that uniform allowance and increase it by $50, as we're not in a competitive situation there. And again, duration of the contract would be a 2-year agreement. Any questions on that?
AJ, why was it 2 years opposed to 3 years?
Just because we don't know funding-wise what we're going to be able to do for increases. So if we went with a 3-year, they're going to ask for a higher percentage in year 2 and year 3, where we felt if we went with a 2-year contract, we could lower that percentage to 1.5, not knowing, and giving us more negotiation power going into 2024. 9% brought us to a good competitive rate, but we don't know what's going to be there for funding beyond that. So I really can't predict it. That's why we did the 2-year.
I was just thinking.
Good question, yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that a 3-year, I mean, if they come back in year 2 and want another 9%, we're not gonna be able to.
Can't do that in year 2 because we've
No, but
said.
in year 3, as opposed to if it was a 3-year contract, it'd be another
Mhm. Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Were you able to negotiate the other things that we talked about during our enclosed meeting? I know we can't talk about it here, but there was other things that you were gonna ask for.
Yeah, so we did remove that one, how do I want to put that? Just let me think here for a minute, because I need to say this appropriately, because that was in closed session. That agreement for weapons has been removed. So if that's the one you're referring to, yes. So everything that you had asked, or that we talked about, has been accomplished in this contract.
Okay.
So there was nothing left out. going in with that 9%, just so everybody understands, I brought this up at finance, that really put us in a great position for negotiating, because everything else for us came off the table when they were asking for it, because we were using the 9% as that carrot, and saying, you know, we really would have to back off the 9% across the board if we made changes in 2023. So that moved some things out and removed some other items from the negotiation point for us. So I felt it went very well.
Yeah, and I would just add that, you know, we have a really good group of officers right now, and under Chief Jenk's leadership, especially the less seasoned ones are really, you know, coming into their own, and we're seeing a lot of movement right now in officers, and we're competing against Dane County, you know, who had a huge increase in their budget because they have 2 additional revenue sources that we don't have. One is they have a sales tax, and then the other one is they have a wheel tax. So they have funding mechanisms that we really don't have. So it was really important for us to be able to, you know, to compete to keep our people, because we have, you know, we're vested in our people. It takes a lot of time and effort to get them in a position where they can fly solo on the road. And, you know, I think that this contract will put us in a position to hopefully retain our officers.
Just a couple other points. Regina, you had asked about those other discussion topics, and the lateral transfer did go in as a MOU, a memo of understanding, so we have that as well. So we can, this is a great negotiating tool for the chief and I, we are now able to bring someone from a different agency over to us with 80 hours of sick leave starting, so that gives the individual a bit of an incentive to not walk away from all of their sick time and start with us. Before, we couldn't do anything with sick time, so they would be leaving everything behind and coming to us starting with a bank of 0. So that was a good negotiating tool for us.
And I don't know if there's anything that you want to say, Chief, while you're here.
No, I thought it all went really well. As Director Gillingham stated, the wage increase itself expedited negotiations, and we seem like we're a pretty satisfied bunch.
I had a couple of officers contact me and say thank you. So I want to share that back to you, because ultimately you're the ones who made the decision and supported that. So thank you, everyone.
All right, and then there was a component that Dave went through at finance that I have
So
up.
if Dave can talk to us about the transfer of the funds and making that happen, because that's part of what you'll be approving this evening. Dave?
As I mentioned during the closed session, we had money set aside in the 23 budget from what I deem as sustainable revenue sources. So this number of accounting entries is simply to move monies out of the holding accounts and put it into the appropriate place. So we took payment in lieu of taxes from the Stoughton Utilities, instead of having it in the equipment replacement fund, putting it in general revenues. We took the $101,263 out of general revenues expenditures and put it into the police department expenditures, so that Chief Jenks has the money in his budget. And we're technically increasing total budget expenditures by $101,463 just due to transfers between funds, basically an accounting entry.
Which is the number that was presented prior.
Correct.
So you guys have seen that number before. Nothing's changed.
All right. Any questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you. Next item is R227 of 2022. And this one and the 2 following are all coming out of the Personnel Committee. So that would be Alderperson Reeves.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Resolution 227-2022, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updates to the work rules and the policy manual. Personnel Committee recommended approval 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Jensen, Alderperson Reeves.
I feel like we approved this a while back. It's pretty self-explanatory. As mentioned on the document, the red line documents are attached, so I would probably just defer to Director Gillingham if he had any specific questions.
To make it simple for each of you, there was a sheet in there that had changes made to the work rules and the changes that were being made to the policy and procedure. The work rules had a total of 6 revisions. If you look at those, there was nothing that was major. Number 11, under funeral leave, the union had asked that we add domestic partner, and so I did go ahead and add that, so that's a change there. But it also gives a definition of what a domestic partner is, so I think across the board everybody benefits from that. Other than that, this information and the changes came from the subject matter experts group, which involved employees from many different areas, and these were their recommendations, and personnel was in agreement with it. And then the same thing with the policy. There was 8 of those, and again, just recommendations that came from the employees to the subject matter experts. We looked at it, it made absolute sense, so we went ahead and moved forward with it, took it to personnel back in July, and we finally had time in our department with the addition of Amanda to be able to get all of these updates done in the manual and in the work rules and policies and procedures. So this is not, there's nothing real major in there in regards to changes. It was just some clarifications. Any questions?
President Hirsch.
I was curious, I mean, just curiosity, on your kind of funeral leave.
Mm-hmm.
Why, like, a stepbrother or stepsister is, their spouses and children are not eligible for leave, as opposed to, your biological brother or sister. I mean, seeing how families are so mixed these days, I was just curious why they were eliminated. So you have stepbrother or sister, but not their spouse or their children, whereas your biological brother or sister, you can attend or have a funeral leave for their spouse and children.
Yeah, we talked about that, Regina, and we were trying to figure out how far do we go. I mean, if you look at that list, I mean, we've added on over time. When you guys originally approved the funeral leave this in August a year ago, we added many different categories in there. We can easily add it if that's something that you want to do now, make the recommendation to add it, and we can do that. It's just we were going so far out, we weren't sure where to end it.
Well, not all of these apply to every single person,
Right.
so every family is different. I would just hate to, if you had a stepbrother or sister, that their spouse isn't as important as your biological
Yep.
brother and sister if you all were part of a family.
Yep.
And so I guess I would like to see that added, just to be all-inclusive.
Can you say that one more time, Regina, so to be
So, I would like the stepbrother and sister also include the stepbrother and sister's spouse and their children,
with the spouse?
just because
Is
I
that
think,
something you want to do now, or you want it to come back?
I think it'd be now.
Yeah,
So then you would want to make a motion to
Motion.
amend if
Yep.
that's your desire.
Yep,
perfect.
Okay, so that, you're going to make a motion to amend?
yes.
Okay. And
I've got it down.
you've got it.
Mhm.
Candy, did you catch all that?
Yes, I have that.
Okay. And you and AJ can compare
Yep.
notes tomorrow.
And that would be on both for the spouse and for their, the person's immediate family and their spouse's family, so it'd be on both.
And
counts.
children.
Yeah, so it'd
Okay.
be both in the funeral leave for the immediate family means the employees, but then you also have the immediate family relatives and employee spouse or domestic partner.
Yep.
So in both categories.
Okay.
I think that just be a way to be inclusive.
Absolutely.
All right, is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second that amendment.
Second.
Okay, I have Schumacher. Any questions about the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. So that takes us back to the original motion as amended. Were there any additional questions or amendments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Next item is our 228, Alderperson Reeves.
Yes, Resolution 228-2022, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updated utilities finance manager position description. Personnel recommended approval 4-0, and I so move.
Is there a second? Pardon me?
Greg?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Greg. Second by Alderperson Jensen. Alderperson Reeves?
This is just the updated position description to better match their actual job duties, and Director Gillingham may have additional things to add, but I think it'd been some time since it was updated, so it's just bringing it up to the appropriate job duties.
Yeah, so the difference here is from Jamin, when we had originally combined this position, we had to pull it back out before we hired Shannon Stotts for this position. Now that she's been in this role, we were able to have her take a look at it as well and give us a true reflection of what the position is, what it's responsible for. So Jill was involved with this, Director Weiss, Shannon was involved in it as well, and Shannon's here tonight.
All right. Any questions about this one? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. The last one from personnel, Alderperson Reeves.
Resolution 229-2022, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updated utilities accounting specialist position description. Personnel recommended this as well for approval 4-0, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jensen. Alderperson Reeves.
Same thing, just updating the position description to reflect the actual duties that they are performing.
All righty. Any questions or comments on this one?
Real quick, you guys were made aware that this one here did not go through with the regular utilities complete revamp. We had told you that we would bring this one back. This position has not been updated since 2015, so there were quite a few changes that needed to be made. We needed Shannon Stotts to be in her role for a while, and then be able to evaluate the position and make sure that it truly reflects what Shannon, our accounting specialist, is doing.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. All right, we're gonna go all the way back to old business, which is item number 6, which is ordinance 8 of 2022. And this is coming from public safety, and I'm having an issue with this one, but I think I have it pulled up somewhere else. Do you have the resolution in front of you, Greg?
I can just read it off of here.
Okay, and then I have the map up.
Okay.
I have an issue with the packet, but I have the map that shows the area.
So this is the second reading, ordinance 28, 2022, amending chapter 70-176 of the City of Stoughton Municipal Code by creating subsection 89 relating to no parking anytime both sides of Greenbrier Drive between US Highway 51 and Nygaard Street. I would move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Schumacher. Alderperson Jensen, go ahead.
Public Safety recommends approval at a 6-0 vote. This is something that was brought forward by the chief and I believe Rodney, was it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, the concerns, yeah.
I'll let Chief.
All right, so the map is up on the screen. I think this is the right map.
Right.
I believe that is, yes, correct.
From Niagara, Greenbrier to 51 there.
Yep. The concern was the parking with the new apartment complex, and that's going to be a very busy stretch of road, and thought was to prevent it before it gets started and keeping it nice and wide and open without street storage and street parking.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments on that one? I think it's similar to what we saw at Nordic Ridge, where we ended up just changing the parking later, so I think probably getting ahead of it's a good idea. All right, no questions on this one. All in favor, say aye.
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 And,
Aye.
all right, and any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Next item is our 30 of 2022, Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you. Second reading on ordinance 30, 2022, amending chapter 70-222 of the Stoughton Municipal Code by adding subsection 16 relating to controlled intersection on Washington Street at 4th Street, and I'd move for approval.
All right, is there a second on this one?
Second. Venegas.
Second by Venegas. Alderperson Jensen.
Now, this is Public Safety Committee recommended on a 5-1 vote. Let's see, this is up one block from the middle school. It was brought by a citizen, I believe.
Right, yes, it was addressing the concern of the high amount of pedestrian traffic that crosses Washington Street. Currently, traffic stops north and southbound on 4th Street. However, on Washington, traffic flows east to west, and the amount of pedestrian traffic from the school alone caused concern. And the suggestion was to add stop signs for east and west traffic to make it make it a 4-way stop.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Alderperson Caravello?
I have at least one question, and that is, I noticed that the vote was 5-1, and I'm curious as to who what the one's concern was.
That was one of the citizen members, Tricia, and she just didn't like the road being interrupted. She liked to be able to travel. It was just a personal point of view for her.
Okay.
Can I say something too? I also think that a major part of her concern was the procedure by which the suggestion was made, and that she thought there should be a commission or a traffic report or something more than simply someone showing up to public safety and saying, let's put a stop sign there. I know that was a concern of hers too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you for
I
sharing.
have a question.
Go ahead.
I kind of agree with that. Where's, a concern is one thing, but where's the data to back up the concerns? I mean, have there been incidences here? Has there been issues in the past? Have we had traffic study done on this as far as speeding and things of that nature?
No official data whatsoever in regards to it. It just appeared to be fairly obvious in watching the pedestrian movement. I don't have any crashes that have occurred there, no car versus pedestrians that have happened in any recent memory. Again, it was more a preventative move.
I think that it's one of the benefits of being on the city council in a town that's 10,000 people, that we can function as a traffic study almost. Seems like that could potentially be the role that we play. I know that each person in the meeting at which this was discussed agreed and indicated that on several occasions we've, whether after school is letting out or any other time, that we personally felt like that was a situation and an intersection in which something bad could happen, and that there appeared to have been no reason for that not to have been a four-way stop. So, you know, I do not believe that some kind of study or data or traffic report needs to be conducted each time we do something, especially for an intersection in which we've all driven probably hundreds of times and can have a well-informed opinion regarding its safety.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments on this one? Alderperson Schumacher, you probably had some kids that went that way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know, of my observations, which are purely anecdotal to this, in the 5 years that I've dropped kids off and gone through that intersection, I've seen a number of close calls in there. I mean, fortunately, nothing's happened, but, yeah, there have been a lot of close calls in there. I know that some of the parking on the west side of Washington Street of that intersection, sometimes they're parked up a little bit close to the corner there, so it's really hard to see oncoming traffic from that way. So I'm certainly supportive to have this change take place. I think that was a dangerous intersection waiting for something tragic.
I'll echo what Fred said. Alderperson Caravello.
I have two concerns about this. One is, one comment is that I do know that I think a lot of folks in town have figured out that if they are heading west on Main Street and they want to avoid, well, maybe I shouldn't say this because people that don't know about it will now know about it, but some people will try to avoid some of the traffic downtown and jump over and take Washington Street all the way down to Water. I don't know. I know that some folks do that. One thing that I'm wondering about is visibility of the sign that would be placed at the northeast corner on Washington, because that side, the north side of Washington, has parking allowed on it. The south side of Washington does, at least on the next block, west, does not have parking allowed on it. I'm pretty sure. So I'm a little concerned that if there's potentially like a truck or a large vehicle, you know, even I know some like SUV, you know, large SUV type vehicles sometimes can obscure stop signs. So I'm just wondering if anybody's done like a line of sight and looked at where that sign would be placed on the northeast corner to make sure it's visible from traffic coming down Washington from the east.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And there has been, I don't know if there's a contractor that perhaps parks in the area. There is like a larger pickup truck that I've noticed in the area as well. I could talk with streets and perhaps paint yellow lines back, kind of paint the curve back to help that. And maybe we would also look at, do some measuring and do just as you said, like see what the stop sign looks like and see if we have to maybe lose a parking spot right there, right before that, where the sign would be placed.
You'd have to have an ordinance change on that.
An ordinance change as well.
Yeah, I think there is an ordinance that limits how close to the corner you can park. So that might be something we might want to look into.
Yeah, if I could add something.
Oh, you're still here.
Yeah. for now, until I freeze, but, so if this is approved and we do put a sign up, we would put flags up, now to make people aware, but over time as well, if need be, we could also paint a stop bar, in the street that's more visible from the roadway. So that's one option that we could do in the springtime when it's more conducive to painting on the roadway. The other thing that we would take a look at too is the trees that are to the east of where that stop sign would be placed, to make sure we have line of sight. We may need to do some trimming on that. But yeah, and the other thing too is you mentioned it, Mayor, is the parking close to the intersection. I believe by ordinance, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but is it 20 feet or something close to that?
Yeah, I had it as 10 feet in my note here to myself, but I will double check on that.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And those that are opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. All right, good discussion. We'll do some additional work before we get the signs put up. Ordinance 31 is coming from Public Safety, Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you. This is ordinance 31, 2022, amending section 70-176, parent 89, no parking anytime west side of East Street from Garden Avenue north 500 feet, and I would move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tukowski. Alderperson Jensen.
Yes, Public Safety recommended on a 3-0 vote. This is, I believe we got the picture up there, yes. Very narrow street, and it is something that is needed in order for our plows to get through, safety equipment, EMS, police, and so on. So I don't know, Brett, if you can speak to part of that. I'm sure.
Yeah, the part of it that I know of on this one was actually near Maple Court, and there was an issue where I think it was actually originated from the fire department about apparatus if they needed to go up Maple Court, also delivery type vehicles, of course, snow plows, but that's not the only reason, from what I understand, that this was originated due to fire apparatus needing to get to certain places, mainly being Maple Court, which is very narrow, and that turning movement, if somebody's parked there, would not happen. I think that Maple Court's off the screen too, I believe.
Okay.
So it should have been Maple Court, not Garden, or?
Well, I think there was,
I'm sorry, Garden Avenue.
yeah, Garden Avenue?
Can you scroll down just a little bit in the
Sure.
photograph? That's Maple there,
Yeah.
Okay.
as it intersects with East.
All right, any questions on this one? You can see the police car there. I don't know what they're doing. That's probably why there's not enough room there.
Probably operating the drone.
That's right. All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries, all right. And that takes us back to the new business. And the next several items are coming from the Plan Commission, Alderperson Carabello.
Okay, let me see where we at here.
And I know Rodney knows that ordinance for parking to the curb too.
Okay, this one, the first one is Resolution 213 of 2022, resolution by the Common Council of the City of Stoughton conditionally approving the preliminary plat of Magnolia Springs, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by
Venegas.
Venegas, thank you. Alderperson Caravello.
This is just what it says it is and what we're looking at. If anybody's got any questions, and I'm sure Rodney could, there was one thing about this that, before we did the final plat, there were some concerns at Plan Commission about a stormwater basin that we thought needed to be nuanced a little bit more than what the developer had done so far.
All right. Anything you want to add, Director Shield?
Yeah, I think I can add a couple of things. Certainly the recitals in this resolution outline a number of conditions that would have to be satisfied prior to a final plat being approved. We can go through all those conditions, but I think, as was mentioned, the one that was of principal concern discussed at the Plan Commission meeting, as highlighted in yellow on the first item D in that recital, it's indicating that the finding the one stormwater management pond does not meet the intent of the ordinance. And as shown on the screen at this point, Outlot 2 is the focus of that discussion. The ordinance requires curvilinear aesthetics, and there's a narrative related to that. The Plan Commission didn't agree with that, and certainly included as an additional condition on the bottom of the resolution, I believe it's item number 17, an actual new item that they added, that indicates that this, before the city will sign a final plat, the proposed stormwater management basin for Outlot 2 is to be modified to comply with the aesthetic, curvilinear expectations of City Ordinance 66-904, Parent 8, to the satisfaction of the city. So that would have to be modified to the satisfaction of the Plan Commission / city, ultimately before the final plat could be approved. We can go through all the additional conditions. One of the exhibits that's referenced as part of the resolution, it is a pretty lengthy review from our engineering consultants, as well as staff contributed to that memo. That's incorporated as one of the conditions that the items laid out as part of that have to be satisfied as well. So I think staff and the engineering consultants, as well as the Planning Commission, have attempted to vet the preliminary plat to the satisfaction of the city, and therefore it's before you with this number of conditions to be satisfied before the final plat would be approved.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments on this? And I don't know if there's anything from the developers. If they have anything they want to add. I see Steve's on the call.
I'm not sure how to interpret what's happening with Page Street there.
South Page.
Plat.
Let me pull it back up here.
Yeah, so there's going to be a new street intersection at Page Street and Orchid Lane. The black line that you see that kind of bisects Page Street really isn't a construction related line. It's kind of a plat line limit, goes to the center of the Page Street corridor. I'm sorry, you said Page Street. I'm sorry, I was speaking in the Taylor Lane. So yes, the South Page Street area, and this was discussed as part of the Urban Service Area Amendment request, is going to include open stormwater management areas in, if you will, the boulevard area of the Page Street corridor. So you'd have a curved area in the center of this right of way that would have a depressed area that allows for stormwater to not be piped, but in part of an open swale, and then it would be piped again under Orchid Drive before it would continue north. So that was part of the configuration that was discussed as part of our Urban Service Area Amendment discussion, and then incorporated into the preliminary plat design.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then Steve Tremlett's on here from MSA. Did you have any questions or comments about the shape of the pond?
No, I mean, I understand the aesthetic and the interest. We did modify it to a point to do that little leg in the northwest portion. Obviously, we're looking at affordability as the key factor for this subdivision, especially the price is getting out of hand. So reducing the lots is problematic. We've kind of made it to narrow depths of these lots. So we're really confined, but we'll take this direction and kind of look at it a little bit further. Again, as I've said, even when I worked on 51 West, we're looking at above view all the way to the bottom. You're not going to see all the way to the bottom where it's square. It curves more as you get further out. How do you handle the embankments? That could be treated a little different. We could add more landscaping, which I believe we actually probably need to improve that based on the ordinance. But I think there's some tweaks, but again, we're really trying to focus on being affordable with this development, which means losing lots is a difficult task. That was one reason why we went with the boulevard, to take all the offsite water through the development without putting it underground, as we talked about in the urban service area. So that's all I really wanted to say. We'll work towards that as we get to the final plan.
Okay. Any questions or comments from alders? So what we're looking at here then, Rodney, is really approval of this preliminary plat with the conditions. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're acting on the resolution, which does, just as you've explained, it approves the preliminary plat with that, all those conditions needing to be satisfied before a preliminary, or before a final plat could be approved.
Okay, thank you. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. The next one is R214, Alderperson Caravello.
Yes, this is R214 of 2022, approving a conditional use permit for an indoor commercial entertainment use at 384 East Main Street, Stoughton, Wisconsin, and I so move.
Is there a second? Second by President Hirsch, Alderperson Caravello.
And this is just a request for conditional use for an arcade and video game entertainment center with alcohol at 384 East Main Street, which is more or less directly across from the Opera House on Main Street.
All right, any questions or comments on this one?
Do they already have their alcohol permit?
I believe they do. Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Candy, they have their alcohol permit, right? It's beer, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Any follow-up?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. R215, Alderperson Caravello.
And this is R215 of 2022, approving a certified survey map to split the parcel at 1540 Williams Drive into two parcels. And I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Schumacher, Alderperson Caravello.
This is to, it's actually associated with the next resolution, to split this so that one component or the one piece of the split can be used for a preschool.
All right, anything you want to add, Director Shield?
No, I think it's a pretty straightforward request. It's a larger parcel. This would accommodate it. You'll recognize on the certified survey map, there will be a cooperative arrangement where stormwater management for the two sites will be split across the two parcels. So there's areas dedicated and preserved for on-site stormwater management across the property lines for the two sites.
So you may recall this site was owned by Martin Luther, and then they had been leasing space out at Yahara School, and they were purchased by Gingerbread Preschool and Childcare, and their lease is running up to the school district. The school district has passed a referendum, so they're making plans to continue their operation in Stoughton. As part of the purchase, they purchased this lot, so they want to split it and use half of it for their preschool and child care center. And at this point, I haven't heard anything about the other lot. And we have a representative here if anybody has any questions for him. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Next one, Alderperson Caravello.
And this one is R-216 of 2022, approving a conditional use permit for a daycare, which is the Gingerbread Preschool and Childcare at 1540 Williams Drive, Stoughton, Wisconsin, and I so move.
Second by President Hirsch. Alderperson Caravello.
I don't know if I have anything really more to add than what we've already talked about.
All right. Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Next item, Alderperson Caravello.
And this one is R-217 of 2022, approving a conditional use permit for indoor commercial entertainment restaurant uses and in-vehicle sales, accessory uses at 1424 US Highway 51, Stoughton, Wisconsin. I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Hirsch. Alderperson Caravello.
And this pertains to what we would probably, everyone here would probably recognize as the former Pizza Hut at that location. And the interesting thing about this one is one of the occupants, I don't know if I should just throw this to Rodney, because they were going to use it as I guess what I would describe as an order in advance pickup only, as opposed to what we normally consider a drive-through. There will be no on-site ordering, just picking up only.
I think you captured that well. So the eastern area, will be a pickup only. The western window of the building would be for a drive-through facility, a different operation, but a drive-through facility on the western portion of the building. It's a 3-tenant building with the drive-through on the east side, and the west side is, as was mentioned, is the east side would be limited to pickup only.
President Hirsch.
Rodney, can you walk me through how these drive-through windows are going to work and the flow of traffic? I'm trying to look at this map and try to figure out where they're entering and where they're exiting and where the two drive-throughs are not going to be colliding.
So, as is shown on the screen, you'd come in from 51 and you'd actually traverse all the way around the building, if necessary, to access the mobile window, the drive-through pickup window on the east side. Or if there is no car stacked there, you can actually get into that pickup lane right away. Otherwise, you can move into the parking stalls, both from going around the building or directly east to west on the south side of the building, the front of the building, if you will. Otherwise, you can move around the building to utilize the drive-through on the west side of the building. The order window and pickup would stack behind the building, if you will, in order for the western drive-through facility to operate.
So what we've been told so far is you'd have to have an app and pre-order, and they announced to us at the Plan Commission that would be a Noodles, and I guess it's pretty common for them in their new setups to have this kind of procedure. If you were to just simply pull up to the window and try to order, they would direct you to pull over into a parking space or come inside the building. You can dine in there as well. And then the center one they announced would be T-Mobile. And then the western one with the traditional drive-through where you would order on-site or in advance would be the Cousins Subs. And there would be 2 lanes going all the way around the building. And I think they tried to limit the traffic flow. Rodney maybe can help this to try to make it more or less a one-way out, I'm gonna say. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
accurate.
The intention really is to only have traffic traverse the site going along the east side of the property and then coming along the back side then coming south along the west side of the building. The front parking stalls, you could get to those if you needed to directly by driving, turning left once you enter there. But in reality, the preference would be to have them go around the entire site to get to those front parking stalls.
And they've explained to us that with this concept of the pre-order, their online ordering system will only handle so many orders every 15 minutes, which maximizes their productivity with their employees. And if they got too busy, for example, their system would, you know, instead of a 15-minute pickup, it might indicate it would be a half an hour in order to keep the cars off the street, which is obviously our concern.
Yeah, how concerned are you with this kind of flow of traffic, Rodney? I just see people coming off of 51 and they're not gonna go around the whole building to go park out in front. They're gonna cut and turn left.
Yeah.
And then that's gonna run into the drive-through traffic, right?
Yeah. Well, this just approves the conditional use for the drive-through. We still have to go through a site plan approval with the Plan Commission, and those very topics have been brought up. We'll have to discuss them more thoroughly. The lane width of the parking area in front of the building is accommodating for two-way traffic. In theory, even the lane that extends along the west side of the building would accommodate two-way traffic, but that's not the direction you want to go. So we're going to have to work with them to prevent traffic from going around the building to the north on the west side of the building. We really want to limit that and try to have people, if a driver comes in and sees a stall that's open right along the front of the building, natural tendency would be for them to do that instead of go around the building. But when you see these parking stalls from Main Street, if you will, or from 51, you're certainly going to be able to see as you approach that they're either full or there's an opportunity to park in those front stalls.
Right. I just don't see people the way they are. They're kind of lazy. They're not going to drive all the way around the building. So,
you're right.
You know, no matter what the signage is, they're going to turn left. Is there another way that they can exit, or do they have to exit the same way they enter?
They have to exit the same way they enter. You know, we've had discussions about considering even a secondary exit point on the 51, and certainly that didn't help facilitate the issue or address the issue. But we've had those types of discussion with the developer, and we'll continue to do so as part of the site plan review.
Okay. Yeah, it just looked very convoluted, and so I'm glad that this is only like the first phase in it, because I wasn't really comfortable with this.
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions for the Plan Commission, because they do have final say on the site plan, you can forward them to Rodney or Phil or Brett, so we can make sure that your concerns are addressed.
Yeah, it just looks like there's a lot of crash points here that, you guys have your work cut out for you. I'd have to play around with it to figure it out.
All right, are there any other questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. All right, looks like we have a couple from the Finance Committee from earlier. Alderperson Schumacher.
I think I have most of the rest of them except for one ordinance reading.
Yep.
That's about it. All right, well, let's get it started. This is R 218-2022, a resolution to amend the depositories for the funds of the city of Stoughton. So moved.
Is there a second?
I think it was great.
Second by Alderperson Jensen. Alderperson Schumacher.
This one is adds on the First Business Bank and Fidelity into the depositories for that. Fidelity had been used but never identified in this document, and Utilities had asked that the First Business Bank be added as a depository as well.
All right, anything you want to add, Director Illinger or Stats? No? All right, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Next one,
All right, I gotta find.
219.
Yeah, I gotta find my notes for that.
Okay. This is for Stonecrest.
Yep. Okay, this is R 219 of 2022, resolution to approve the cost reimbursement agreement for Stonecrest development. So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Caravello. Alderperson Schumacher.
This is what we've kind of come to know as the Matson's development that's way over on the far east side. And this just talks about what would be for the infrastructure reimbursements.
All right.
The early part of a development starting.
All right. Anything you want to add, Director Shield, to this one?
No, I think it really speaks for itself. It's just trying to establish a cost reimbursement program so that we make sure we get deposits to cover our initial anticipated expenses related to the review for the urban service area amendment and other development related expenses.
All right. I think it was drafted by Attorney Dregney. You're awfully quiet tonight. Anything you want to add?
Hear us yet?
No, nothing to add.
All right, thanks for putting this together. And then this is something that the developer has to review and sign off on as well, is my understanding. So we anticipate that as we hopefully look to develop something on the east side. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Ordinance 32 is coming from Public Safety.
Yep.
Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ordinance 32, 2022, amending Chapter 14 relating to the issuance of alcohol beverage operators license, and this is a first reading.
All right. So this is the first reading. I don't know, Attorney Dregney or Clerk Kristen, I don't know if you guys want to kind of walk through this one. I know there's been multiple conversations. Some of them I've been part of. Some of them have not because I've had conflicting meetings. But Matt, do you want to kind of outline what this is all about anyway?
Oh, can't hear you, Matt.
And I know Matt had some assistance on
No.
this one.
You're on mute.
I just have to refresh my memory of this one. This is not the procedural change that we decided to put off until the next meeting, is it?
Yeah, Matt, this is the one we were just cleaning up the ordinance in anticipation of that policy change.
Hold on a second.
This is the one where we were going to make the decision internally. Yep. On the alcohol beverage operator's license.
At Public Safety?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to give the clerk the authority, if everything checks out, to just issue the license.
And then I'm just trying to remember though, we're putting off for a future meeting, the discussion of public safety, whether the Public Safety Committee ought to make the final decision on operator licenses, where we have a question about the arrest and conviction record, correct?
I believe that's correct. That sounds correct to me. Anything you want to add, Candy?
No, this was updates to this ordinance for now, and yes, preparation of the policy changes that we're looking at public safety.
And I have to apologize because I can't even remember what the purpose of these particular changes is.
This one had to do with the background check for the operator license.
Yeah, okay. So one of the things that I can see happening here is that we want to make it clear what the clerk's role is and what the police department role is here. And so, for example, the police department is going to be conducting a background investigation, but will simply report the findings of that investigation without making a recommendation, for example, on the application. That's what we see. And I apologize. I'm a little hazy on the details of this one because it's been, I think, at least a month since I looked at it.
Yeah, like I said, I was in and out of these meetings as I was going to another meeting, so I don't know all the details. And I know you had Derek doing some work on some of these as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think this is just limited to some very minor procedural adjustments relating to the clerk's role and the police department's role with respect to the intake of a license and the background investigation. Mm-hmm. At a future meeting, we're going to have a significantly more complicated discussion about the licensing process.
Yeah, and this is the first reading, and the other one, I don't remember if the other one was an ordinance or a policy, so I don't know if we're going to end up acting on them both the same night. But this one for sure will be coming back.
Okay, well, I'll make sure I'm more up to speed on this one at our next meeting.
I believe it was a policy change, and so it's potentially on the same night we'll have the reading.
Yeah, it might be something that we want to make sure Derek's here that night as well, since he did the majority of the lifting on this one, on both of them.
Yeah.
All right, so unless there's any questions, we'll just move on to the next one, and then we'll bring more information back at the next meeting. Yeah. Next one is, I think we're back to Alderperson Schumacher.
All right, this is R-221, 2022, resolution for the third amendment to the real estate purchase and sale agreement, and the third amendment to the agreement to undertake development of Stoughton Riverfront Development, LLC. So moved.
Second. A second by Alderperson Jensen. Alderperson Schumacher.
Ultimately just moving the potential, or the deadline of a closing date from December into March 31st of 23.
All right. Director Alinger, you want to kind of walk us through it? This was at the RDA already, is that right?
Yeah, but that needs to be updated.
Yes, the RDA already voted to support both the extension of the sale agreement and the extension of the agreement to develop till March 31st. And they wholeheartedly approved it. I don't know if there's anything else to add.
Yeah, so Candy, in the last whereas, we'll have to put the RDA vote in there. Do you see that?
Candy, I can look in the minutes. I know it was unanimous, but I don't remember who was absent.
Okay.
So, basically we're extending the closing date because there's a financial gap that has surfaced because of the rising cost of interest rates. So we're asking for more time to close on the property. Did I capture it all, Matt?
Yeah, are we going to talk about the working with Ehlers tonight too?
That's next.
Yep, that's next, yep.
Yep, okay. So we'll talk a little more about that.
All right. Does anybody have any questions about moving the closing date? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Next one, Alderperson Schumacher.
All right, this is R 222 of 2022. This is a resolution to perform a gap analysis on the funds with the Stoughton Riverfront Development LLC, and so moved.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Jensen. Alderperson Schumacher.
As Dave and Attorney Dragney alluded to, with the change in the interest rates and things like that, some of the funding or the monies is a little bit larger than what was expected, and this gap analysis is to find out how much and when.
All right. Dave, you want to tell us a little bit about who's performing the gap analysis?
Ellers has indicated that they will do this. We've used Ellers multiple times in the past for TIF analysis. They've indicated the charge would be on an hourly basis, looking at 4 to 6 weeks, anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 for cost. They did mention that because of the relative, it's not as complicated as some other TIF district projects just because it's residential structures, so they anticipate it's going to be on the lower end of the cost. In addition, the developer has agreed to pay 50% of the cost.
All right. Anything you want to add, Attorney Dragney?
Yeah, and again, yeah, this is connected to the need for extension. Several weeks ago, there was a process of discussions began between the developer, representatives of the RDA, and representatives of the city relating to the project. And the developer informed us that as a result of increasing costs, construction costs, and increasing interest rates, he was not able to make the project work financially. And so the resolution that we arrived at was to work with Ellers to determine what the gap is between where the project sits financially today and where it would need to sit in order for the developer to be able to move forward. So that's the purpose of this. We've done this gap analysis on other projects where Ellers has come in and shared its evaluation of the financial strength of a project. And so that's what they're going to be asked to do here. Our hope is that it will give us the information we need to understand what would be necessary to make this project go forward at this point. So that's the purpose.
And I would just add that Brink is, willing to split the cost of doing the gap analysis, so he's still committed to the project. Some have suggested to him that he scale it down, but he's really committed to the design that he's been proposing to the RDA and the city all along, and we certainly embrace that design, so we'd like to see this thing go forward as is. So what we're trying to do is position ourselves to make that happen. President Hirsch.
Dave, for the fiscal impact, 1,500 to 2,500, that's half the cost, right? So
Correct.
Ellers would be 3,000 to 5,000.
Ellers is 3 to 5 for
Okay.
their projection.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Next item, Alderperson Schumacher.
20.
Kind of far away from Oh, got it. This is R 223 of 2022, a resolution to amend the Fireman's Pension Board investment trustees. We had that finance earlier, and the Fireman's Pension Board recommended the approval 6-0, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Jensen. Alderperson Schumacher.
This is just a little bit of cleanup of some of the names that are on there, and I think to add Dave's name into it, is that correct?
It would, couple things. We need to remove John Neal's name, 3 predecessors to me as the finance director. We're also, and the pension board agreed with it, we need to, or we want to have just myself as finance director and Lisa as the treasurer as the financial people on the account, because every time somebody goes off the pension board, we've got to jump through hoops to remove that person.
All right. Any questions or comments on this one? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? We're almost there. I think we're going to make it.
Getting close.
Alderperson Schumacher, you're on a roll.
All right, this is R-224 of 2022, a resolution to approve the contract for shared ride services 2023 to 24 with options, yearly options through 27. So moved.
Second.
Second by Jensen. Alderperson Schumacher.
We'll let Dave talk about this one because he did a lot of work in this one.
The shared ride service contract with our current vendor ends December 31st of this year. Department of Transportation indicated we could no longer extend the contract. So we ended up issuing an RFP. Had to wait the month for the people to submit their responses, and we got a total of 1 response from our current vendor. The review committee met, and we were all in agreement that the one vendor was the best proposal that we received. So then had to work with Department of Transportation because there was extra things that we had to do to, because there was sole source vendor, to have paperwork showing why we chose the one vendor. I lost my train of thought here. The contract cannot be signed until the 21st. We also contacted, and that delay is again due to state rules, because we have to give all the other vendors who didn't submit a claim 10 days to appeal the award of the bid to the one person or one company. I did contact the other 3 of the 4 other vendors who were given information. One said that they have not been successful competing for shared ride services against the larger vendors in the state, so they did not bid. One vendor indicated they did not bid because they've been having trouble hiring both a dispatch and drivers because of pay, so they're holding off. And a third vendor, who is statewide, indicated they've had so many new routes being added, they did not feel that they could add any more at this time.
President Hirsch.
I have a question. One of the reasons for increasing the charge per mile was fuel costs. And I see when you negotiated this, fuel costs were high, but now they've come down actually below fuel costs from a year ago. Are you going to try to I know you're probably going, heck no, renegotiate it back down because fuel costs are now actually lower than what they were a year ago?
Well, you're correct. We did have a 25 cents on each fare for one way. But when we submitted the RFP, we assumed a 8.1% increase in prices. The sole bid came back at 12.4% increase in prices. However, when I had to do further analysis for the DOT, I also found the numbers for price index related just to motor fuel. And when I took that into account, they were less than, the increase that they could have gone into. The other thing on the contract is the price for next year does not have a next year being 24, does not have a built-in increase. So they're keeping the price for year 1 and year 2 the same, otherwise for CPI, which they get every year. So I believe that they did try and be, as adjusted as much as possible, keeping in the fuel prices, because they did submit the bid in November. Fuel was dropping a bit then. But yes, I would really prefer that we didn't try and renegotiate, considering we have to have this in place by January 1.
I just didn't know, I could see like a month ago where everything was so high that now everything is, back to, less.
Yeah, I'd like to see them continue to drop, because that will help in a lot of other areas too, but.
And I'm just curious, with the senior rate of being $3.75 one way, I mean, that's almost $8 round trip. Or, it seems, I mean, I know it's probably okay, but it seems a lot for some seniors to be able to afford that. Have we looked at whether we're pricing ourselves out of what people can actually afford? Has anybody looked at that? Or is that what the DOT is recommending that we charge?
There was no recommendation from the DOT. The original price increase of a quarter was based upon my recommendation, because I looked back and we have not increased that price during the entire 5-year contract. So there's been no inflationary increases during that time. And at the time when I did everything back in August, fuel prices were very high, so that was part of the driving force.
Right. I'm more concerned about seniors being able to afford it, and people with disabilities being able to afford it than.
From what I understand, there are multiple entries out there that basically gift or provide at a discount ride cards, 10 or 20 at a time. So they are getting it from either free or at a reduced price beyond that anyway.
Okay.
Did the senior center also have some policy regarding that as well?
Greg, we can't hear you.
I think the senior center has something where they provide fair,
Yeah, they work with START.
yeah.
So there are some programs and punch cards out there. So there are some opportunities. So if you hear anybody that it becomes a hardship, let us know and we can help connect them. The good news is we don't need any vehicles, because as you're hearing, vehicles are hard to come by.
Yeah.
But we're in really good shape on our vans. All the vehicles have lifts on them, and we're seeing a heavy amount of utilization on our ride service. So it doesn't seem like the price to this point has been a detriment. They're busier than ever. They're having staffing issues. I'm hoping that they'll be able to address that. We've actually had a couple weekends where they haven't been able to provide service because of illness or a death with somebody, the driver's families or whatnot. So that's been a challenge, just like it has been for other businesses.
I have a question. I'm just wondering, I know it's been tough hiring people for working in services like this. If we have feedback on our current and what sounds like is going to be our future service provider, how their services are.
I think the best thing to do would be to funnel it through Dave, and he has the contact at Running Inc., and we can forward any comments or suggestions that we have to them. Amanda's been pretty responsive.
Yes, she has been.
But so people are satisfied with, as far as we know, things are as good as they can be in the current situation?
In this environment, I think they're as good as they can be. One of the other problems that they're dealing with is technically these employees are tipped, so they're making less wages. And you've got part of the problem too that if you've got clientele who need a subsidy for riding, they may not have monies for tips too. So it's kind of a catch-22 on that.
Right, thanks.
Yeah, and we're fortunate to have a service, and we've had it for many years. Obviously, long-term, we'd like to be able to supplement that at some point, when we get, large enough where we're able to, do that financially is a big thing. But until we get there, this definitely, has become an important service. There's also the affordable ride program and RSVP and some other programs that come out of the senior center that may be available. Now that might not work for everybody, but there are some other opportunities out there that we could direct to the senior center for people that maybe this isn't the best option for them. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, and I think we're on the last one.
Yep.
Alderperson Schumacher.
R-225 of 2022 is a resolution to amend the 2023 budget related to refugee settlement activities. So moved.
Second.
Second by Jensen. Alderperson Schumacher.
In a previous resolution, we had approved $5,000 for professional services related to the grant applications for that resettlement program. They've spent about $1,100 worth of it and would like to carry the balance of those funds into 2023.
With the caveat, we haven't seen December's invoice for professional
Yep.
services yet, so the $38.63 requested is the maximum, and it would be reduced based upon December activity.
Any questions or comments on this one? So basically what would happen is if we didn't act on this, the money would go into the reserve fund balance. And then this way we can just vote on it now. And these budget amendments do need a 2/3 vote, but that allows them to continue to do the work. Some of the grants that they applied for that they anticipated needing the services of Becker Consulting, they did in-house, but they would still like to engage with Becker to maybe explore some other opportunities for the 9 families that they're currently servicing. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right. That's all we had for tonight. I'm looking for a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Is there
Second.
a second by Alderperson Caravello? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Any opposed? None opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. I know there's a lot on the agenda, but we got through it pretty quickly.